GitHub is blocking the personal accounts of Russian employees of sanctioned companies. Feels like it might be a problem. Peter's got it on today's Not So Critical Update.
So first of all, thank you to I Am PyTest for putting this on our Discord, which everybody should join. This is GitHub that has suspended the accounts of Russian developers at sanctioned companies. There's two takes to this story, to this kind of thing that's going on. There's sanctioned companies and they need to have their employees limited access to US resources. And there's the other side, which is GitHub's mission is to provide a space for all developers, regardless of their place of origin, which is, I think, is part of their mission statement, or used to be. And obviously, there's people on both sides of that fence. What do you think, Mike?
So, I mean, this is the same idea as like McDonald's shutting down stores in Russia, right? You're punishing the citizens of Russia. You're punishing the employees of Russian companies that are being sanctioned. And is that hurting the companies themselves? Is that hurting Russia, the Russian government? And I think the idea is you want to hurt the Russian economy. You want to make life uncomfortable for the people who for the citizens who can influence the Russian government. But in a dictatorship, there's really not a lot of a pressure that you're going to apply by making the people suffer. I think this is a problem you have in North Korea pretty extensively. Sanction the country. Kim Jong-un's going to be fine. Vladimir Putin's living the life he wants to live. I mean, he wants to be more successful and famous and loved, but he's got his money. He's still rich.
But it's not a dictatorship quite.
Sure.
And what sanctions are left, other than, they've done the billionaire sanctions. Now they're sanctioning companies. And for those sanctions to be effective, the company's employees have to be restricted. So I don't know. I think this is tricky. It's only people under those organizations, by the way. So it's people's accounts who are part of an organization in GitHub, which has been sanctioned because
I thought Russian. It was the personal accounts of employees.
Well, it's
of those companies.
Yes, because they're listed as members of the organization.
Mm-hmm.
So it says that they're not visible to other people.
Okay. Yeah, so maybe that's a little less clear. I think the other side of it, though, is we now have a situation where, like, sanctions are government actions, right? We've got private companies basically shutting down the Russian economy by their own choice because they don't like what Russia's doing as a country. So we could say, yeah, we support that. I'm glad these companies are taking a stand. I'm glad they're getting involved. What if they turn around and said, hey, we don't happen to like what's happening in your country, so we're just going to all band together and shut down every service and product and offering we have across these entire industry sectors.
That feels like hyperbole to me. That feels like too far-fetched because no company would do that. Well, again, now I sound like surely nobody would do that, and then it will happen next week.
But what is it when Google and Facebook and Apple, well, not Apple, like Google and Facebook at least, threatened to pull out of a country over privacy laws? If a market said, hey, we're going to restrict data collection to the point that you can't make money, all of a sudden Google and Facebook are pulling out of a country, you don't think that's going to affect their economy?
Yeah, I suppose it is like that. My brain starts to shut down at this point because I can see both sides. On the one side, it's a free market. The company can do what they like, and they can, and if the consumers don't agree with them, then they can just stop using Google and Facebook. But then there's the other side of, Well, that's not going to happen, is it? There's a lot of things Google and Facebook do to kind of lock people in. They have way more power. They have more power than some governments do. If Kathmandu were to pull out of a country, say, "Oh, we're blocking Facebook," Facebook wouldn't give a shit. But if Facebook said we're pulling out of Kathmandu, that would have a significant effect on probably Kathmanduans.
Yeah, and that could be maybe the more cynical side of this, which is if Russia was that valuable a market to to these companies, would they be as willing to pull out?
I suppose they're balancing like what's the marketing value versus what of pulling out versus what's the revenue value of staying in the country.
Right.
And I suppose
do I make more money on the goodwill in the countries that support this move, or than the money that I lose by pulling out of this country in the first place?
I suppose in the end, it's like actuarial science, where it comes down to just a very cold series of calculations that is like, well, I mean, probably the human rights issue has nothing to do with this, whether they're actually pulling out or not. It's purely a calculation.
And you see that a lot with like sportswear companies, where they take what you might think is a social stand. They're doing what their customer, like, they're trying to sell to these people, right? Of course they're going to make a stand. I think it's an interesting case right now with Disney in Florida. Came out in pretty strong opposition to Florida over this so-called "Don't Say Gay" bill. And Florida's not backing down. They're trying to put more restrictions on Disney and threatening their tax status and things like that. So
I didn't keep up with that. What's going on there?
So Florida had this "Don't Say Gay" bill that was restricting what teachers can talk about in the classroom in elementary schools. Fairly controversial. Employees at Disney spoke up and said Disney should have taken a stand against this in support of their trans employees. Disney then did come out against it publicly to the government in Florida, who now are retaliating by threatening their tax status. So I think in the past, you might have seen a company like Disney make a threat that we're not going to financially support you anymore. We're a big revenue source for your state, so maybe we wouldn't could consider moving, and the states would back down. What you're seeing now in Florida is Florida saying, we'll call your bluff and see what happens. Wow. So it's an interesting move.
Okay. All right. That's going to be interesting to see what happens there. Well, I'd say interesting, but hey, I don't really care.
And if I mischaracterize any of that, I'm sure Mikey will correct me.
I
tried to be as impartial as I could be, though. So
you tried. He tried. Okay, so that's what counts.
I think I did pretty well.
I think we should be less. We should be more partial. Personally, I think we should take a stance.
Believe me,
we should pull the not so critical update out of Florida in protest. That's what we should do.
Can we do that?
Yeah.
I don't think we would lose any viewers.
Oh no.
Do we have a viewer in Florida?
Do we have join Discord and say hi if you're from Florida.
If you're in Florida, join Discord and let us know where we're off base.
So GitHub, do you agree or disagree? We don't have a poll, but join Discord and tell us. And I don't know. What do you think? I don't know enough about this. It's too complicated a subject, and I don't feel like I want to invest the time to figure out who's right.
Nailed it.